Mm.
Now if you're equipped with AI, let's say you were an novice hacker, now you're an intermediate, maybe advanced, because it helps you do so many things, right? And it helps you automate things, recreate things, duplicate things. So many tasks you can do now with AI. And the automation and the generative part of AI is the thing that's really harming us right now. And so that's why we believe as a company and as a person, and how we really implemented our mission and vision, is that we really need to provide a new perspective, I would call it a paradigm shift in cybersecurity, particularly when it comes to identity security.
Work is changing quickly, irreversibly, and often invisibly. I'm Chris Fanchi, and this show is about understanding where it's headed and how we stay human in the process. Hello and welcome to Human Work After AI, the show where we explore the future of work, technology, and what it means to stay human in the age of AI. We're speaking with founders, technologists, and thinkers who are navigating the shift toward an AI-powered economy. Today's guest is Eli Farhood, a finance veteran turned cybersecurity entrepreneur. He's the founder of KatshID, a company on a mission to eliminate passwords by turning your hand into your digital identity, secured, private, and device-agnostic. Born out of personal experience with identity theft, KatchID is rethinking how we verify humans in an increasingly AI-mediated world. Eli, welcome to the show.
Hi, Chris. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So I always like to start with my guest's origin story. What first got you into technology and then finance and led you to found KatchID?
Yeah, that's a great start. Everyone who graduates from college, they're trying to find themselves, trying to find where they belong, where's that passion that keeps them moving and keeps them pushing boundaries. And it's hard, let's be honest. It's really hard early on when you're 22, 23, trying to find yourself. That's why a lot of people end up wasting several years before they realize, this is where I belong. This is not for me. This is wrong. This is right. And you're in that, tug of war, so to speak. Like you're trying to figure it out. I happen to have, engaged in finance at a very early age. Even before graduation, I started learning trading, and I was potentially looking at trading as a job, like everyone else. Like if I can make money with trading, why should I worry about being employed or something like that? This is kind of like very common among the young folks, and I
Definitely.
mean, we've seen it, right? I like Robin Hood did it, right? Like everyone now is trading, everyone is a stock option expert, everyone is trying to find that next big skyrocketing, like they call it, to the moon, right? Stock investment, right? And I just started to fall in love with it, and that was the thinking then. I started learning actually in the foreign exchange market, which is not a leveraged market. It was like cash to cash, meaning you're trying to literally find few percentages point in terms of profits. Not like today, they're looking for Xing, right? Any investment.
Mhm.
And I started little by little, I started getting dragged to the game of trading, and I started liking it. I was good at it. I started making money. Uh, my capital was not that high anyway. I started with something not that big, but still I was making roughly 2% every month or so. And if you think about it, like you're just new to the block and you're making 2% or about that, sometimes less, sometimes more. That average is like 10% per year, which is pretty good, right? Like if you're making 10% per year, you're fine. You get along with life very well. And little by little, I started climbing the ladder. I started acquiring those certifications that are required for finance professionals, like Series B, Series 34. I became a FINRA licensed professional. I studied economics. I studied finance, and I became this guy who manages money for people. I moved across several finance hubs from Dubai to Switzerland to New York City. And until in the last about 12 years, I think, I moved to Los Angeles. The good thing about finance, and I really encourage people to, if not study it, work in it. It helps you learn a lot of things early on in life, and it helps you appreciate money, and it helps you appreciate how you can manage money. Like if you're able to manage your money, you're going to be a very successful person. And this is, I think, something that we don't have in our school systems nowadays in the States. We don't teach our kids much about finance. People don't know much about investing. You're not supposed to learn about that, after you graduate. No, you should have the basics. It's like a foundation in your life. You need to understand financial aspects of everything. At the end of the day, even your personal life, even your family. I'm not gonna say it's a business, but it's about cash flows, right? How much you're spending, how much you're saving, how much should you save, how much should you put on the sides every time you make a deal, you make big money, right? Let's take an example. You're a realtor. You sold this real estate, you sold that house, this complex, you made good amount of money. How much should you invest of that? How much should you put on the side? Maybe in a savings account, maybe in a perpetuity. There's in an annuity. There are so many tools you can use today to make money and secure your future. And unfortunately, we find ourselves, especially as a society, not well equipped in that sense. And I feel blessed really that I started my life in finance because it's an eye opener. Like you start learning about companies, what they do, what's their business, how much they're making money, what's their margins, how much are they growing. You start learning those things, and it makes you like a savvy person. Be honest. It makes you a savvy person. You start looking at life from a different angle, from a different lens. And that's why I really am blessed, really. That's I started with finance. I studied it. I worked in it. I had more than 20 years in experience. I was managing portfolios literally before I switched to technology and particularly cybersecurity. But one thing about finance that made me realize that maybe it's not the best thing for me was the amount of stress involved. I mean, I think everyone knows about it. If you're working in finance, the amount of stress required to handle and manage is through the roof. And that's a fact. Finance is sometimes very simplistic in the sense that like you manage your own personal finances, but when you're managing money for clients, when you're managing large portfolios, we're talking about tens of millions of dollars. You have a responsibility. You're under pressure day and night. You're following the markets, not just one, multiple markets, especially if you're managing portfolios across global markets, not just the US market, which was our case back then when we were managing our $50 million fund. And so this gives you an idea that finance is not for everyone, as a job, as a profession. It requires someone who can handle a lot of stress, a lot of pressure, and who can take bright, smart decisions under the pressure. A lot of us sometimes we give up under pressure. No, I'm not going to do this. This is too much. But no, finance is really a great way to equip yourself how to handle stress and be under pressure. But again, I liked it. I was good at it. Maybe I didn't love it. I discovered that maybe it wasn't my passion because the stress was felt. Like I was feeling the stress on a day-to-day basis. And I'm comparing now while I'm managing a cybersecurity firm that it's a different thing. I don't feel the stress that I used to feel in finance. Even though I have a workload that is also still very high, my stress levels are still very, very manageable. And perhaps I'm just thinking that maybe cybersecurity, or not cybersecurity particularly, but technology was my true passion. It has always been. Even when I was in finance, I was thinking to build trading systems. So I was always branching out to the technological part of finance. How we can help people place orders and manage their money on a smart trading station that gives people an edge to provide them the best execution in the marketplace. I was always trying to branch out. Didn't have the chance as many times. It was just once, but that was kind of like a message for me or a hint from the universe or from my own, thing. Your place is in technology. And I've always loved technology because I think it's a great gateway to the betterment of humanity in simple terms.
Were you still in finance in 2008? when the markets crashed?
Actually, it's the part of my life where I transitioned from finance to technology. This is kind of like 2012, 2013 was the year where I was starting to think I no longer worked professionally in finance. Maybe on a personal level, I was still doing some stuff, but or helping some friends, helping some family members. But on a professional level, yeah, it was during the crisis. I think a lot of my colleagues went through the same kind of like funnel where they were like, okay, enough is enough. This crisis was too hard, too tough. A lot of people, I've seen it. They kind of like switched profession from finance. And finance, the beauty about finance is kind of like it allows you to branch out anywhere you want. You're
Mm,
really well equipped. You know how to handle numbers. You know how to handle development of systems. And if you know how to do it in finance, you're probably going to do it anywhere else. One thing I always give credit to finance is teaching me how to manage risk. Like this was part of the core part of my job was managing risk of our portfolios. And risk management is, in my view, the most instrumental element so that you can be successful in life. If you can't manage risk, I don't think it will be easy for you to handle all the adventures that come along.
yeah, absolutely. So, what was it that brought you specifically to cybersecurity once you left the finance sector?
Yeah, I mean, I was not in cybersecurity earlier. We were trying to build a social platform that solves the problem of fake news. And let's go back in time. We're not thinking 2025. We're thinking 2011, 2012. Back then, like fake news was not that big deal, maybe, but we were still annoyed about the fact that the internet, which is the most amazing thing that humanity ever developed, right, had, some bad aspects in it. And those aspects were partly, fake news, fake accounts, bots, that are, taking advantage of people that are online. I saw that so many times. A lot of people, you know, we humans are trusting. I think as a species, we're trusting. We start by trusting people. And so if I tell you that you were a good person, you're an honest person, you trust people, and then, hey, Chris, there's an internet, you can connect with others and you can potentially find your next client or your next friend or your next colleague, who knows, right? You're probably going to believe it, right? I'm
Mhm,
connecting with people. And this is where some bad actors, which always existed, right? They started taking advantage,
mm,
creating fake accounts, taking advantage of the elderly, creating fraud schemes. We've seen it over and over. Romantic schemes on dating apps, which was also part of the reasons how we started our social network. We were like, okay, a lot of people love online dating because it's a new trend, it's fashionable. And maybe it's easier because we're busy, right? We don't have the time to socialize in person, which now I'm reconsidering. Like I think socializing in person is the best, is really the best.
mhm,
There are things you get there you can't get anywhere else. I'm not a dating professional. I'm just telling you out of experience. But yeah, back to the idea is that we were able to connect with people and also get scammed, and that was
mm,
something that we thought back then it would be a problem. So we came up with this concept of creating a social platform where people meet first through live video. That was really the concept. We thought you can fake text, you can fake images, you can fake a lot of things, but you can't fake live video, right? If the first mean of communication between Chris and I would be a live video, that definitely means he's Chris. He's not someone who's trying to hide his identity or put some hoodie on or some. With all respect to people who wear hoodie, I'm not trying to, but there's this concept that fraudsters, always have that hoodie and black hat and sunglasses. Yeah. So, but if you think about it, by the way, if we've launched this platform today, it will fail big time because AI can create videos now. We've seen it,
yeah,
right? A company in Hong Kong lost $25 million conversing over a Zoom call with a fake CFO. It was a deep fake, right? We've heard about other schemes in
mhm,
the UK. Here in West LA, actually, we've had $750,000 stolen from a company when they mimicked the voice of the CEO and they were able to steal I would say, the security protocol of that company.
mm.
So Back then, yeah, we were focused on that. Unfortunately, we failed miserably there. The platform could not gain any traction, although the
Mm.
product was amazing, to be honest. We believe back then the problem basically was broadband. We envisioned this experience where people can experience a very high quality video. That when you're conversing, like we're conversing now. I'll tell you, back in the days when I used to do video conferencing over dial-up, like this would be like, you'll be like 1 frame per second and it's blurry. Like now I can see you in real time. We're living in different,
Mhm.
and we were
Yeah.
envisioning that particular experience we're experiencing today in 2011, 12, which was impossible, due to the fact that broadband wasn't, available for everyone. It was very limited. And even when it's available, wasn't that amazing, to be honest. We're talking about 2G speeds, which doesn't really provide
Mhm.
much. I mean, compression, I've had a lot of experience with video compressors on the side because I'm crazy about animation, 3D modeling, and all those kind of things.
Mm.
And I realized that actually the compression we've used 10 years ago is still pretty much the same today. Like not much has been done, right? And today we have like 100, 200, 500 megabit of download speed on an internet. Think about that. Back then, if you had 1 megabit, you're lucky. Like it's a huge difference. Yeah,
Yeah.
and we think that it couldn't gain traction. People didn't enjoy the experience that we were envisioning, and we couldn't provide it. And that's why we ditched that project and we closed the company. And we've done it, it was outside the States. We were still in Cyprus back then. But that thing that really made me dip my toe into cybersecurity, given that I had that backdrop about solving the problem of fake news, fake accounts, fake bots, was my experience with fraud. And
Mm.
this is when it really started.
So can you dive a little into that and tell us what happened?
Yeah, in 2015, I learned one morning that one person was accessing my checking account. And they were accessing my checking account over the phone. Basically, they called the bank. They knew that I was banking with this particular bank, and they called the number and provided them my social, my name, address, the regular KYC that they do over the phone when you call your bank. And I've
Mm.
done it many times. And I'm not sure how like, for example, I used to do it over the phone many times when my clients, for example, wanted to withdraw money from their investment account, or they wanted to deposit money because they're low on margin, right? They would actually call me, and like it was kind of like the way to do it. You call the bank, you provide information of that client, you're the one who's authorized to act on their behalf, and you can transfer $100,000 with a phone call. As simple as that. But you just need those particular information, provide them, and they did it for me. I mean, they tried to set me up and frame me on that, uh,
Mm.
and we we were shocked that they were doing it to take $2,000 to $3,000. That was the amount they were trying to take. Luckily, I
Wow.
didn't have any losses because I wasn't at fault. But that gives you an idea that when you have identity theft, you become a person that no one wants to do business with. It's kind
Mhm.
of like you become a blacklisted person.
Mm.
And everyone who wants to check on your records, so-called credit report, they can find out that you had a large fraud. So some of the fraud went through in that instance, it didn't, but in other instances they went through, but I can tell you later about it. And you become, like I said, a risky person that everyone wants to check your credit report, and they will find out. I mean, there's a true fact, and maybe people don't know that if you have a large amount of fraud, and large doesn't mean like 10,000 or 100, of course, that will definitely ring the bells, but even if it's a couple of $1,000s,
Mm.
there is a share of intelligence among those financial institutions. Even if Bank A had the fraud, they're going to share it among the network that, hey, we have this person who had fraud. And now every bank will know that you had fraud. And what that means, every bank now is going to limit your credit availability.
Oof.
Why they do that?
Crazy.
You realize that when you have that fraud, you realize that every financial institution you deal with is going to limit credit availability for you. And basically, they do it because they want to protect you. They know that someone has been able to compromise your identity. And so you are a risky person. You know, they're doing business, and at the end of the day, they want to protect themselves as well. So if you, let's say you had hypothetically $10,000 of credit on your availability on your card, they will probably bring it down to $500, as much as that. Yes. And if
Wow.
so, that means that, think about that. Like, and this is how it happened the second time. The second time it happened, I was at the Apple store trying to buy some hardware for the business. I try my business card, it doesn't work. Try the other business card, also doesn't work. I'm like, maybe something wrong with the business. Let's try the personal card. I try my personal card, three of them, none of them works. I was purchasing in the amount was 2,700 and change.
Mm.
But my credit availability was 500 basically. So that's why it wasn't going through. So I called my
Wow.
bank immediately because I was like really upset. Like, what's going on? Like, I've never had that happen to me. And then they told me, sir, well, we learned that you had fraud in recent weeks and we had to limit your credit availability. And so this was the instance where I was like, okay, this is crazy. How on earth does anyone allow themselves to pick up my data and use it and try to defraud me? I know there's an interest. They want to make money, right? They want to steal my money. I get that there's an
Mm.
interest, but how on earth the system allows them to do that? It's not like, I understand the frustrator. I'm not gonna blame them. That's their business. But I blame the system. How the system allows it, that it's so easy. You just call the bank, provide your social security number, provide some answers about where you live, which city, what's your last name, blah, 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 all those kind of information. And then bam, I can claim anyone's identity just like that. The system is flawed. You know,
Mhm.
it's not how it's supposed to be. But again, there was, I think, a lackluster attempt by the industry, maybe cybersecurity, to do more, because there are a lot of things interconnected with this problem, particularly, and the fact that large banks don't really care. They can absorb losses sometimes. They can write it off sometimes when they file their taxes. There are so many ways you can get away with it, you know, to the point where let's not worry about this. You know, if it is going to cost us $50 million a year, it's okay. We'll cover it. But that's with the big banks, not with the small banks. When we worked
Mhm.
with the FDIC, we discovered that community banks actually go through the same problem. But community banks are not large banks. And these banks, when they have losses on their books, let's say $1 million, if there's a fraud of that level, they could go out of business. These are not Wells Fargo or some other bank that can, you know, sell more equity or raise money from investors and write it off. So
Mm.
we have to look at the whole economy, not just, you know, the ones in the pinnacle, you know. And so the system was dealing with it on that premise that, you know, like, we're fine, it's okay, we can still handle it. But then came the sophistication of hacking groups. Then came AI, you know, where things are spiraling and starting to get out of control. Let me give you an example. Did you know when the first digital password was used?
No.
It was first used in 1961 by an MIT professor. So we're using
Wow.
60-year-old technology to protect ourselves and our identities and our infrastructure and our banking infrastructure in the age of AI. I
Mhm.
find that ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And thinking about that makes me cringe. It's how can you protect, like, I've had discussions with some community banks and we discovered that their stack is still like these. They're still using software and hardware that they purchased in 1980s.
Wow.
That's 50 years ago or almost, yeah. It's It's
Jeez.
absolutely not acceptable that we have so much legacy systems still running the show, and you're talking about trillions of dollars of transfers and transactions on a daily basis. That doesn't make any sense. Some ATMs
Mhm.
were running, I think, Windows 3.1. If people know what Windows 3.1 is, like, I think they upgraded in recent years, but it's just, uh, it's just not right, if you're thinking about it. And now I think like we're in that stage where AI is really changing the game in cybersecurity. It's lowering the entry level for hackers. Now
Mm.
now if you're equipped with AI, let's say you were an novice hacker, now you're an intermediate, maybe advanced, because it helps you do so many things, right? And it helps you automate things, recreate things, duplicate things. So many tasks you can do now with AI. And the automation and the generative part of AI is the thing that's really harming us right now. And so that's why we believe as a company and as a person, and how we really implemented our mission and vision, is that we really need to provide a new perspective, I would call it a paradigm shift in cybersecurity, particularly when it comes to identity security. Today, the way we're headed really doesn't lead anywhere good. It's going to be a very bumpy, rocky, and eventually is going to be breaking apart. That doesn't have the defenses needed to contain AI and the threats of AI.
Yeah, definitely. So you guys chose biometrics and specifically hand scans as your technology. What made you choose that route and what was developing that technology like? What went into that?
Yeah, that's actually a really great question because it touches on the core value that passwords provide. And if you look at passwords, the beauty of passwords is that they work on any device. I mean, back in the days, now they don't. But back in the days, you would hop to your friend's laptop and boom, password. I get into my bank account. I sign out. I'm good, right? Now you can't do it anymore because you have to verify the device before you can enter your password. And you have to use an OTP, one time passcode, which is a miserable experience for everyone. I'm sure a lot of people deal with it on a day to day basis.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we thought about solving the problem from a strategic perspective. And when we were like kind of like researching and looking why this was so common, because I wasn't alone, I wasn't single out. I mean, a lot of people have identity theft every 22 seconds, someone in this country falls victim to fraud, and that is huge. Okay. And fraud can take so many shapes and forms. I mean, it can be as little as $50 of unauthorized charge on your card to a fully fledged identity fraud where you've lost thousands and you're on the blacklist. It can be like ranges between this and that. But, hundreds of millions of people globally go through this. And our systems are not equipped to help. Actually, they make things worse. They drag you in an investigation that it's endless. It takes many months, and God knows if the conclusion really is what really happened. Sometimes they just wrap it up because they don't want to deal with it. It's such a hassle. Imagine like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack, and sometimes the haystack is just a mountain of trying to finding that. They end up like just wrapping things up. And so we thought the idea, the genesis of why we've built KatchID is elimination of credentials. We thought if we can eliminate credentials, we can solve 80% of the problem. And that is based on the fact that 80% of breaches or fraud are based on stolen credentials. So
Mm.
let's say this again. 80% of fraud globally is based on stolen identity credentials. And that makes sense. That's make total sense because if you look around you, back in the days, data breaches weren't as common. Right now, data breaches are every other week, like they're very common. I think it's the news now. Like in the cybersecurity, every other day there's a breach, and the folks that are getting breached are not small businesses. Sometimes they're federal agencies. Sometimes it's trillion-dollar companies. Like it's not mom and pop business that's getting hacked and like okay, we can take it. No, this is. And this tells you, like, this is a very interesting finding to know that hackers and fraudsters have reached a level of sophistication that is pretty high. I mean, if you're able to, I mean, I think Microsoft just a few days ago they had another hack, and last year their 365 email system was hacked. 60 million people were compromised. 60 million businesses. I'm sorry, not people. So that makes it. Oh, I'm sure. No, I think million people, million people. But again, like this is not a small number. 60 million people, right? But
Mm.
still, like thinking about that, if those companies are getting breached, that means that our defenses are extremely inadequate to face the severity of identity security. And so that was how we thought about it. Okay, we thought we want to eliminate credentials. That's number one goal, right? What's number two? Okay, number two, we want to enable biometric systems that are truly secure. Because think about that, you know, if you lost your password, you can't change it. But can you change your face or your hand? You can't, right?
Mm.
So it has to be something really secure, really unbreakable, so that people can trust that system. Otherwise, it's a non-starter. And that's also was number two. Number three, it has to work on any device, just like passwords. I don't need to authenticate a device before I can sign in. I mean, that creates more friction. And the more friction you put in the system, the more people are going to push back. I can give you now a very secure, tough security system for your identity. But if it has 10 steps you got to go through, you're going to tell me, Eli, you know what? I don't care. I'm happy being insecure. I'm not going to deal with all this, right? That will be
Mm.
what most people will say. I see businesses refusing to use MFA, and there's a reason behind it. There's so much friction, right?
Yeah.
So these all three steps that we've had, you know, that we these are conditions we've imposed on ourselves to create a product that can have legs, you know, can run and fly. Because if you don't provide agnostic access on any device, if you don't eliminate credentials, you haven't done much. As long as there are passwords, hacking will remain the same. And you haven't provided a comprehensive solution to identity security. That's why we see, and look around you, like identity authentication is very fragmented. There's not even one major player today. And the reason why not even one major solution is the fact that they are all providing partial solutions. So as a business, you need to reach out to multiple vendors and buy product A, product B, product C, so that you're well equipped. You know, you have all those hammers you're trying to play with and all those balls and trying to secure your stack, where that's really not something that a lot of CISOs want to deal with. CISOs are those chief information security officers that, you know, take care of the stack of any business and make sure that digital assets are safe, the network is safe, because that's a huge risk for businesses. You know, when they have a breach, they have to go through a lot of pain, financial pain, revenue. Sometimes your business can freeze. You know, what happened to MGM in Vegas a few years back? I'm not sure if you
Mm.
recall. Yeah,
Mm.
they had a huge data breach on their infrastructure. Vegas was frozen for 2 months. MGM
Oh,
Resorts couldn't take not even one customer in. They had a ransomware
wow.
attack. And
I
it
don't
was
remember that.
and all of that was based on one employee's identity. Think about that. A
Wow.
business as big as MGM Resorts, which manages, I think, up to 12 resorts in Vegas on the Vegas Strip, all of them shuttered, okay? Just because of one employee's identity was compromised. That identity, when it was compromised, it allowed the hacking group to plant a ransomware on the network, freeze the
Mm.
data, and freeze the business and ask for a large payment. And this is where it gets really ugly. You connect with the FBI, you bring the regulators on board, you go through the hassle of having no revenue, your employees can't access
Mm.
their system. What do, right? This tells you that we had to eliminate credentials as part of our solution, because credentials are what hacking groups are looking for day and night, and this is what they're looking for. And a lot of the times they think that I'm a small business, who cares about my credentials? And that's not how hacking works. Hackers are like like fishermen. They're literally fishing every day and they're trying to see if there's an open door on the web. And they don't know if that open door belongs to a large corporation or a small business. It's just an open door they were able to go through. And if it's a big fish, they'll be very happy. But even if it's a small business, they will try to extort you. They will try to get something out of you. I mean, I've heard recently a bakery was hacked. A bakery, Chris.
Baker.
This is not Google, a bakery. And they're not just the bakery, their provider, the one that provides them ingredients to bake cakes, their supply chain was hacked. That tells you that they're not really targeting sometimes. Sometimes, obviously, they're targeting, certain entities, but most of the times it's not the case. It is the case
Hmm.
that they're fishing for open doors on the web. They're scanning. They have bots, softwares that are around the clock trying to scan where's an open door. They can go inside that open door and they will discover if that was a big hunt or small fish. But in any way, shape, or form, as a business, you're going to pay a heavy price. So we really want to convey that message to businesses. Stop spending less money on security. Like, this is the first thing they do whenever they have a budget constraint. They're like, let's
Mm.
spend less on security. We don't need that. We're not Microsoft. Who cares about, hacking us? That's not how it works. You really need to be very vigilant, very careful about your business. Even, I mean, small businesses actually can get hurt a lot more than large businesses, because large businesses
Mm.
have leverage. You don't have leverage as a small business. You actually should be spending more on security than large businesses, because you can't take it. If you have a large loss, they can put you out of business. And yeah, that's really what KatchID is. It's that hand scan that protects your identity, eliminates credentials from the equation of identity security. And we've built it. I mean, when we were building this, we were thinking of military applications. So we're talking about military grade security. What that means is that even if your hand copy is stolen, or you have a compromised picture of your hand, or even if it was generated with AI, it really wouldn't matter. We've built this technology to defend against all those attacks so that you are safe no matter what. And that's a transition again. Eliminating credentials is not something that can happen overnight, but it's a transitional period where slowly but surely you're eliminating credentials and replacing them with strong biometric systems. And I hope, other companies are trying to do the same thing, because I don't think, I mean, the market is massive and there's always place for other competitors to be there. But if we really want to fight hackers and fight the fraud, and at least protect our identities, because there's a true reality that no one can really argue about. Once your information is on the public domain, you will be hacked one day, no matter what. Even us, we can get hacked. And so unless you have this
Mm.
technology that is, I would say, like, it's resistant to hacking attacks, it's resistant to stolen information attacks, it's resistant to man in the middle attack, it's resistant to all those. I'm not going to throw a lot of jargon in the cybersecurity world, because I want everyone who's listening, like, to get the idea to the best, clearest possible point. We need to really eliminate credentials. This is a very important element. And I get this question a lot as well, like, why Face ID doesn't do that? Why some other
Mm.
biometric system doesn't do that? And the answer is simple. I mean, Face ID is only on one device called iPhone, and not even all iPhones have it. So what if I want to access my device, my account on another device? And I have to, like, I mean, need to. Face ID can't eliminate credentials. Not any other biometric system today can eliminate credentials for that particular reason, because it is device based. And as long as you are device based, you'll have to still enable credentials. And that's why we have to eliminate them. That's why our concept is very different.
How did you go about achieving device agnostic status? Because all devices are different. You've got different manufacturers, different brands, different capabilities and technologies. How did you approach that problem, and what was the solution that you came to?
We looked at the sensors and hardware that are common among all devices. And so if you take an average smart device, or if you take an advanced high-end device, smart device, they all have cameras. And we were building our technology based on the camera. Like, we were hindering ourselves, self-imposing that condition. It has to work on just a camera. And that's why it is device agnostic. The moment we needed to add more particular sensors, it's not going to work anymore. And that's why we've built it just to work on a camera module.
Okay. So, how has AI played a role in the progression of your own product and your business internally?
To be honest, not much, because we've seen AI even before ChatGPT. I mean, AI has been here for the long haul, even 15 years ago. People think that AI was born with ChatGPT. No, it's just that ChatGPT is the most advanced version of AI, but AI has been there along the way since decades. I mean, if you ask the father of AI, he started in 1985. So AI has been there, and we've seen AI, we've learned, and we've known the threats of AI. It's just the public didn't know, the media wasn't talking about it, but AI was there, and that's why it doesn't surprise us. Like, all the advancement of AI, we're already known about these things, and we were anticipating that this is going to happen. I actually was on a podcast in 2022, and I was talking about this happening in the coming years. And indeed, it did
Hmm.
happen. Not because I'm a prophet or I'm no better than anyone else. It's just that I was analyzing, moments in history and in technology, and I see that happening. It's just a simple conclusion. You don't have to be a rocket science to scientist to know this. And so it didn't surprise us, and we were actually ready for this. In the stack we've developed in KatchID, in the technology we've developed at KatchID, in the way we approached identity security, we've known if we're not able to defend against AI, this technology won't fly. No one will use it. No one will even care. Because when you're building something new, you want to make sure you're at least, you know, uh, ready to handle the next 10, 15 years, or even 20 years ahead in terms of like technological advancement. If your technology is just gonna work for a few years, you're onto like a non-starter scenario, right? People might use it
Hmm.
early on and then like ditch it because it's just not gonna work. No, we were having a very strong vision, and our vision, was like, it's not just about passwords. Like, think about this: credit cards. How many people lose their credit cards? How many people lose their keys? How many people lose their badges? How many people lose their QR codes, right? I remember back in the days when I was working for a bank, we used to sign in at the gate with a QR code. And many of my colleagues, sometimes they don't have the QR code. Hey, Eli, can you please open the gate for us? Like, you know, it, these are things that you can lose: keys, credit cards, QR codes, even actual keys. Like, we're proponents of even opening your house or apartment with your hand. Like, that would be cool. If I can walk
Hmm.
out of my house and need nothing, I need to carry nothing with me. Maybe I can unlock my car and start my car with my hand. That would be cool. And actually, it's more secure than even keys themselves.
Hmm.
Because, I mean, I get this question sometimes and I like those questions from devil's advocates that, you know what, but passwords, at least, I mean, if I have a key, like, how do I trust your technology would be better than my key, right, to open my apartment? Well, let's think about this for a moment. How secure are your keys?
Someone
How
could easily find or swipe them. Yeah.
Right? You can even copy them. Like, I have this little story to share with you, Chris, where someone extremely smart, what he did, he took my key. I didn't know. He did it on my own apartment, and it's really an interesting story to share. He had like a mold. He grabbed my keys. He was just trying to show me that he can do it. He wasn't trying to do it out of like bad intentions, but he took a mold and put my key on it and copied the way the key, has like those dents.
Hmm.
And came the next day, opened up my apartment to show me that I have a key of your apartment without taking your keys. From the mold, he recreated another key. Like, just to tell you an example, keys are definitely not secure. You can lose them. They can be stolen. They can be copied. It's not secure. Trust me. Any kind of security is better than keys, way better than keys. And we will have, I think, in the future, convenience of not carrying anything when we go out. Maybe at some point we will not need phones, but let's suppose that's not the case. But at least we won't need car keys, we won't need credit cards, we won't need wallets, we don't need any kind of like badges, maybe your hand or your face, depending how the technology play out and how the public perception and reception is for those new technologies. I think biometrics will be the way to go. It's very secure. And passkey, by the way, is one of the interesting step there where they're trying to eliminate credentials. They're trying to, but the problem with passkey again is that it's still hindered to a device. It still has this risk factor called compromised device. So today, if your device is compromised, passkeys are not that safe because those hackers can still get to that private key as the process. They're scanning, they're scanning your device, they're scanning what passkey is doing, they're able to grab that private key. And this is also dangerous. Passkeys, I think they're a step forward in eliminating friction, maybe lowering the use of credentials, but they're not a fully fledged solution that can really change the game, in my view. We need some really strong biometric system that is device agnostic. And this is why I always say, let's stop verifying the device because we don't know who's using that device. Let's start verifying the human because we're verifying a human identity. We're not verifying if it's an iPhone or an Android. We're verifying this human, and that human identity should never be based on a device, ever. The device can be misused, abused, compromised, or someone else I know happened to know my passcode using my device and trying to set me up for a large fraud that I don't want to deal with, right? And so this is our concept at Catch. It's about human-centric technology where we know only your biological hand will allow you in. A copy of your hand won't work. A picture of your hand won't work. I guarantee it. Only your biological hand. I wish I can share more trade secrets about the technology, but for now, you got to take my word that this is where what we're trying to build. This is where we're headed in what we're building today. And we hope others can follow our foot as well, because we need to eliminate credentials on a global scale. Like it has to be, let's say, let's focus by country. We here in the States, we should stop using credentials, period. Things I've learned when I was working at banks. Check fraud is very common, Chris, and it happens in person. This is not something that happens by some hacker in China or somewhere else. No, this happens in person, and check fraud is very, very prevalent. So, and I still don't understand why we still use checks, and I hear a lot of legacy mindset voices still suggesting that, the system is like that. It's hard to change. No, I don't think it's hard to change. We just need to change the way we think about security because we're entering, I think, a very dangerous phase in our life. Not just that we could lose our jobs because of AI and there will be this transitional period where maybe people will lose their conventional job until they find their new job that AI will recreate. But we're also at a very important juncture in security and cybersecurity, particularly. My worry is less about the private sector and more about public utility companies or public sectors. Like, I'm not trying to be a pessimist, but this scenario could really happen. Like, let's take this scenario where a power or gas or water utility company gets hacked. What could let's just think about this for a moment.
A
You
lot
can
of
have
really bad things,
you can have
certainly.
cities without water, without power, without telecommunication. Think about that. Like these are very important things. Absolutely important things. These are the basics for our life. Every day we need to breathe air, drink water, have electricity. Everything runs on electricity today. We can't play that game. We need to have to really upgrade our systems, eliminate credentials on a countrywide basis so that we can level up the security against the fraudsters and hacking groups.
So, one last quick question before I let you go. What does your solution do if you wanted to say let somebody else have access to a device, or say in the future you use your hand to get into your house, but you want to let someone in, a friend, a family member, even someone that is doing work for you and you're not home. How does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. We've thought about that. We've even thought about our own multi-factor authentication, which is frictionless. So you can always add a guest hand on the account that you own, and that guest hand will get access. So if I add your hand as a guest, you'll be able to unlock my premise and get in. That's our solution. We can also have MFA, but it's a biometric MFA. I don't want people to be scared. There's no OTP, no codes to copy or paste. It's just a biometric MFA where you have different hands to allow you access to a transaction. Let's say you're trying to send, I don't know, $10 million transaction, okay, from a trust account. We can add several hands on that transaction. It won't go through unless Chris scans his hand, scans his hand, Jack, and other parties involved in that transaction. They all have to scan their hands to have that transaction go through. There's like so many ways to play around it, but the thing is that we want to eliminate credentials. This is a very important element. I can't emphasize that enough. Eliminate credentials so that we have I would say, a much more secure identities for individuals and machines as well, by the way, not just for individuals. We need to eliminate credentials and provide a frictionless experience. Because one thing I've learned working in cybersecurity for the last 5 years is that people want security and want ease of use. And the moment you provide one or the other, people are not going to use your product. And that's one of the reasons why people push against multi-factor authentication that is based on OTPs. They push because they don't want to use this. It's very like there's a OTP fatigue. Have you heard about that? Right? There's like
No, I haven't heard that, but it doesn't surprise me.
yeah, I mean, maybe on the personal level, it's not that bad, but if you're working in a business environment, there's an MFA or an OTP on every part of your access in the business network. And especially when you implement zero trust, it becomes even worse because you have to
Mm.
apply an OTP every time you need access to particular places in that network. That means that you can end up 20% of your time just popping codes here and there to get access. So it's really not a good experience for anyone, and that's why a lot of people don't do that. Like someone who could be like listening to our conversation would say, "No, I don't do that at work." Yeah, because no one will want to do this. But if you're forced to do it, if you work, let's say, for a high rank agency that has like very high confidential information, you got to do it. And some people go through this.
Yeah.
What worries me is that some people in the industry are trying to push everyone to do this, which in my view will create a lot of inefficiencies in the business dynamics. And on a day-to-day basis, when you're trying to do business, it's going to be very hard to deal with that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Eli, this has been a fascinating conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your story and your background. It's really interesting to hear how you got where you're going and what you're working on. So, can you share with our listeners where they can find you, where they can learn more about KatchID?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, please reach out on LinkedIn, Eli Farhood. You can add me there. I'm happy to connect. You can also check our website, KatchID or Katsh.id, KatshID.com or KatSH.id. They both go to the same domain name. This is our website. You can check our product, learn more about our vision and mission. And if it aligns with you, we actually now have an exclusive opportunity. We have our public offering online, so everyone can invest in our company and buy shares as an investment to grow with us for a very bright and secure future. It's an opportunity that may not happen again. And I've seen these opportunities come along the way, and I missed many of them, and I regret not buying stock in certain companies that now I can name Palantir, for example. Palantir is one
Mm.
of those investments that I regret not buying. And I remember I had the opportunity to buy it for $6, and now it's trading at $155. Just think about that.
Oh.
Investing early, by the way, Chris, and I'm talking from an investor lens now, and from my profession as a professional in finance. When you invest early in private equity and private companies, you get the deal at the cheapest stock price. And that actually gives you a massive opportunity to do hundreds of thousands of gains on your stock if this business makes it. So I invite people, if they're fed up with passwords, if they think that the world should run differently using biometrics, strong biometric systems, please visit our website, KatshID.com, KatshID.com. Check our product, learn about our vision and mission. And if this aligns with you, invest in Catch and back us so that we can really change the world and provide seamless, secure, and biometric access to all your accounts. You don't have to manage passwords anymore. I know many of us are dealing with 50, 60 passwords between business and personal, and just want to end it up here and say thank you for having me, Chris, and thank you for everyone who's listening.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks everyone for tuning in. If you enjoyed this, please be sure to subscribe, leave us a review. It really helps us be found by more people. Always share this with anyone you know. And if you really care deeply and are thinking about the future of work and digital identity, please share this episode far and wide. Thanks again for listening, and tune in next time for more human work after AI. Thank you for listening to this episode of Human Work After AI. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast provider so you never miss an episode, and we'll see you next time.